Hello, friends. Welcome to Scale Up University. So, welcome to this course on building human level AI grading systems. So, in this course, we are talking about building a automated artificial intelligence based grading system with the accuracy matching to that of the human level. So, this is the lecture one of this course, that is why automated grading matters. So here we will be discussing in this lecture, we will be looking at the core problem of automated grading, like the need of automated grading. Because in learning, feedback plays a very important role. And as we scale, like when the number of students will increase, then grading will become bit complicated. Like the feedback mechanism will not be that much appropriate. It will be very difficult to provide genuine feedbacks, and hence automated grading comes into the picture. So that is what in this lecture we will be looking at the importance of automated grading, why automated grading matters. So the lecture one of this course, why automated grading matters. So first, let us look into the introduction. So education today is not limited by content delivery. Rather, it is limited by feedback capacity. So if we talk about the education of the 21st century, wherein we talk about online education, like sitting at your home, you can attend classes. Because of the online education, the it has become highly scalable. Earlier, there was infrastructure limitation, wherein in a classroom, limited students were able to sit, like 60, 100, or if it is a lecture hall, then 500. But with online education now, in a single classroom, lakhs of students they can attend. That infrastructure limitation has gone. And content delivery is not a challenge, because let us suppose for the professor, no matter if 1000 students are attending the lecture or 1 lakh student, the content will be the same, the content delivery will be the same. So content delivery is not a challenge in the current scenario, but the challenge is the feedback capacity. So the idea is that, let us suppose tens of thousands of students got enrolled in a course. Definitely they can attend the classes. Content delivery will not be a challenge. But when it comes for assessments, like the students will be submitting assignments, they will be giving tests, they will be giving exams. So the assessment will be a challenge. Now, to go through the answer sheets of tens of thousands of students will not be easy. It is the real problem. So the problem is the feedback capacity. And hence, automated grading plays a very important role in the education, in the education of the 21st century. So that is what we will be looking at in this lecture, the importance of automated grading. And this course is about designing a AI, automated AI enabled grading system with human level accuracy. That is what this course is about. So if we look at the key topics which we will be looking in this course, in this particular lecture, key topics for this lecture. So first we will talk about the feedback crisis in modern education. Then we look at why feedback quality directly affects learning outcomes. Then we'll compare constructed response questions, that is CRQs, with MCQs, that is multiple choice questions. Then we'll look at why scaling feedback is not equal to scaling exams. Then we'll talk about reframing AI from replacement to infrastructure. And finally, we will conclude this lecture with the topic why this course exists. So these are the key topics which we will be covering in this particular lecture. That is why automated grading matters. So let us look at all these topics one by one. So first we will talk about the feedback crisis in modern education. So if we look at what exactly has changed in education, so we can see that over the last few decades, class sizes have increased. As I already mentioned, that when we talk about online education, there is no limit on the class size. Lakhs of students can sit in a class, they can attend the class simultaneously. So class sizes have increased. Online and blended learning has exploded. Assessments have become more frequent. Expectations of personalization or the personalized learning have risen. So with time, we can see the evolution in the education. So class sizes have increased. Students are now opting for online and blended learning. So online and blended learning has exploded. Assessments have become more frequent because in these online courses, with every module or after every lecture, there might be any assessment is there. So assessments have become more frequent, and there is a demand for personalized learning. So expectations of personalization have risen. So among all this, there is one thing which hasn't changed, which is same. One thing that has not scaled, and that is instructor time. Instructor time is still the same. Like let us suppose earlier, if the instructor used to take classes for 4 hours, now also he will be taking classes for 4 hours only. Like instructor time cannot be scaled now. Instructor time is the same what it was earlier. So despite we have seen a lot of changes in the education, but there is one thing which has not scaled, which is still the same. That is the time of the instructor. Instructor can devote the same amount of time which he used to devote earlier. Why feedback is the first casualty? So now let us first try to understand the feedback crisis in modern education. So what is the feedback crisis? So as we already saw in the modern education, number of students are increasing. Number of students is scaling rapidly in the modern education. But the instructor time is the same. The instructor time remains the same. And we can easily feel the burden or the work overload on the instructor, because now instructor have to go through the answer sheets of lots of students, and hence the feedback, like giving meaningful feedback to all those students, is a very big challenge. And this is the feedback crisis in modern education, wherein number of students, they are scaling rapidly in the modern education, but the instructor time remains the same. So hence there is a challenge in front of the instructor to provide meaningful feedback to all the students. Now it will be more time consuming, and it would require more efforts to achieve that. So the idea is that when time is limited, feedback often becomes manual, incentive, intensive. Like it will take lots of time, because see, feedback is still manual, because the professor or the instructor have to manually go through each and every assessment, like each and every assignment or the answer sheet, and he has to provide the feedback manually. It's a very time intensive process. It is cognitively demanding and emotionally taxing, because the instructor will always have a workload. So ultimately, the feedback will be delayed because of all these problems. The feedback will be delayed because it will take some good amount of time to provide the feedback, so it will be delayed. The feedback will be minimal, like the examiner or the instructor will be in a hurry because he will be having lots of students, so he will be in a hurry, and the feedback provided will be very minimal, like good, incorrect, C solution, etc. The feedback would be generic, wherein few of the comments will be repeated, like copied comments, because the feedback will be like very casual. The instructor would be highly interested in just finishing his work because lots of students are there. So the instructor has to provide feedback for each of the student, and mostly the feedback are in the form of binary, that is right or wrong. So because of all this, instructors are forced into trade-offs between speed versus quality. Like if the instructor very thoroughly, if he evaluates, if he go through the answer sheets, then the quality of feedback will be very good, but it will be very slow. And if the instructor is in a hurry to check all the answer sheets, then because he will be in hurry, the quality of the feedback will not be up to the mark. So there is always a trade-off between the speed and the quality. There is a trade-off between the coverage and the depth. If the instructor goes into the depth, like while he is assessing an answer sheet, if he is going very deep in giving comments, feedbacks, then his coverage will be less because he will be able to examine only few copies, few answer sheets. And if his coverage is more, if he is like assessing more and more copies, it means his depth will be less. So there is a trade-off between coverage and depth, and there is a also a trade-off between fairness versus fatigue, wherein either the feedback will be very fair or it would be fatigue. So there is a trade-off is there. So automated grading, as the name suggests, grading would be done automatically by AI. That is what we will learn in this course, like how we can do automated grading using AI. So with automated grading, it is not grading for marks, rather it is grading for learning. So very important difference between these two statements. See, the idea is that now let us suppose you gave an exam or you submitted any assignment. Now let us suppose you got the marks. Let us suppose you got 7 out of 10. Then that marks is just an indication that how well you performed. But that marks is not telling what mistakes you did, where you went wrong, and where you did good. Marks is not telling all that. Feedback will tell that. So the purpose of grading is not just marks. The real purpose of grading is to provide good feedback, quality feedback, high quality feedback, so that student can understand his mistakes. He get an idea about his mistakes. He learn from it. So grading should not be done for just for marks, but more importantly, grading should be done for learning, because with proper grading, uh, when feedback is given, with proper feedback, a student will get to know where he made mistakes, where he did good, and that will help him in learning. He will learn from his mistakes. So the automated grading is mainly focused on grading for learning, where AI will be providing the feedbacks. And how it will be done, that is what we will be looking in this course. Now we'll jump into the next topic of this lecture: why feedback quality directly affects learning outcomes. So it is understandable that if the quality of the feedback is good, then the learning outcome will be good. Because what feedback is telling, it is showing where you made mistake, what are your weak points, what are your strengths, and that will have a real impact on the learning outcome rather than marks. Marks is not telling that much. Marks can never point out your weak points or strong points. Mark is just like a overall performance of yours. That overall, okay, you did a decent performance or you did a bad performance. So marks is an indication of that. So that's why feedback is more important. So quality feedback, definitely it affects the learning outcomes. So first we will look at assessment without feedback is not learning. So let us suppose we are doing assessment and we are just giving marks. We are not giving feedback. Then definitely we are not helping the students in learning, because assessment without feedback is not learning. So the idea is that feedback is one of the highest impact interventions in learning. So feedback plays a very important role. It is one of the highest impact interventions in learning, because right feedback will show the weak points, strong points, where the student is making a mistake, and it will enable real learning. Students improve more from feedback than from additional instructions, because the idea is that let us suppose you just keep on giving instructions to the student, that will not have that impact. Why feedback has more impact? Because student has done something, like he has given a test, he has submitted an assignment, he has given an exam. So student has done something and he will be very much interested in the feedback, because action has already been taken by the student and he is just waiting for the feedback, and then he will realize his mistakes because he has done something, and with the proper feedback he will realize his core strengths, weaknesses, his mistakes, and that will definitely help students in improving his performance. So students improve more from feedback than from additional instructions. Feedback guides metacognition, that is thinking about thinking. So idea is that without feedback, students repeat misconceptions. Without feedback, errors fossilize. Because without feedback, errors, mistakes will not be pointed. So students will never get to know what errors they did, what mistakes they did, and hence the same error will be repeated again and again. Confidence drops. Without feedback, confidence drops. And without feedback, learning becomes performative, not formative. So, without feedback, actually, what will happen is that if only the marks are given, then it's all about performance. Like, let us suppose in a classroom, students will be compared based on their marks. So, it's all about performance. Like, if a student is scoring good marks, his performance is good. If the student is scoring low marks, his performance is not good. But the problem is that here, without feedback, with the marks, student will never realize his weaknesses, his mistakes. So in he will not learn. So assessment without feedback is not learning. So learning becomes performative. Without feedback, learning becomes performative, not formative. Formative means it will help in the overall growth, because with feedback, students will learn their mistakes and they will never repeat it. So they will grow. Now we will look at what good feedback actually means. So high quality feedback, if I talk about, so high quality feedback is timely, close to the learning moment. So timely feedback is very important, because let learning moment is like, let us suppose I am learning something. Now feedback will give me an idea that whether I am learning in the right direction or there are some misconceptions I am holding. So feedback should be timely. timely, because timely feedback means it needs to be close to the learning moment. So I am learning, and feedback should be timely in such a way that either a assessment should be there, something should be there, so that I get a feedback whether I am moving in the right direction or not. So high quality feedback is timely, it is specific. So specific means it addresses why, not just what. So the idea is that let us suppose the instructor, while examining answer sheet, he is giving feedbacks. So that is the what. What is like the feedback he is giving, and why he is giving that feedback. So high quality feedback needs to be specific. It should also mention why that feedback was given. High quality feedback is actionable. Actionable means it will tell the learners what to improve. High quality feedback is consistent. It is fair across all students. And high quality feedback is scalable. Scalable means it is available to everyone, not just a few. So these are the qualities uh, of high quality feedback. That high quality feedback is timely feedback, specific feedback, actionable feedback, consistent feedback, and scalable feedback. Now the problem is, the more students need feedback, the harder it becomes to provide it. Because in the feedback, there is a scalability issue. Because if the number of students are increasing, it will be difficult to provide those students high quality feedback because of resource constraint, because instructor time is the same. Now we will discuss the next topic of this lecture, that is constructed response questions versus multiple choice questions. So see, constructed response questions means here the response is like subjective, it is theory, and MCQ means we have to choose the options, it is objective. We have to choose options, either one option will be correct or multiple options will be correct. So MCQ is all about choosing the correct options, and constructed response questions is about answering it in a subjective manner. These are like open ended, and you have to write like theory. Now why MCQs became dominant? See, we know that like most of the exams, especially the competitive exams, they are MCQ based. Very few exams are constructed response questions. So why multiple choice questions became dominant? So multiple choice questions dominate because they are easy to grade. So grading multiple choice question is very easy. Like we have so many techniques like OMR sheets are there. So just we have to circle the answers, and with the help of scanning, very easily we can scan through. So grading becomes very easy. They are objective in nature, so they are close ended. So it is also like easy to grade. They are fast. Actually, multiple choice questions very fast to answer, because students, they have to just pick up the right option. They don't have to write lots of theory. So it is relatively fast, and it is highly scalable because automated correction techniques exist for MCQs like OMR sheets, and in online exams also very easily we can like grade, and hence it is highly scalable. Now MCQs, they mostly test recognition, recall, and test the taking strategies. So there are limitations when it comes to MCQs, because MCQs, like when we talk about assessment, it is not a complete assessment. It tests only certain parameters, like it tests recognition, recall, and test taking strategies. So MCQs, they rarely test reasoning, because for reasoning Constructed response questions are required because I have to write some theory, I have to give reason that I cannot do in a MCQ test. So MCQs, they don't test, or they very rarely test reasoning. They very rarely test explanation, because in MCQ I just have to pick up the right option, and no need for me to tell that why I like got that particular option. And because of this lacking of explanation, there is a scope for guess. Like in MCQ setting, I can also do the guesswork, and if my guess is correct, I can get marks. So in a way I can fool the exam. So MCQs rarely test reasoning, explanation, and conceptual understanding. And these are the limitations of MCQs, you can say that. But now the problem is that since we don't have any automated framework for subjective question assessments, like we cannot easily grade constructed response questions. Like automated techniques are not there for that. And hence we have to continue with the MCQs despite it has got some limitations, because MCQs are highly scalable, they are very fast, objective, and easy to grade. So hence MCQs have become dominant. Now we look at why constructed response questions matter for real learning. So constructed response questions, if I talk about, they ask students to explain, they ask students to justify, they ask students to connect ideas, they ask students to reveal misconceptions. Because the idea is that we cannot fool the exam. Here, there is no scope for guesswork. Like whatever answer you are claiming, you are also giving reason for that. You are giving the justification why that is the answer. And hence, if any misconceptions you are holding, that will be revealed. And constructed response questions, they ask students to show reasoning paths. Constructive response questions, it activate generative processing, which basically deepens the understanding, which improves long term retention, and also which exposes how students think, not just what they choose. So, hence, CRQs matter for real learning because they expose students' thinking, and hence, because of that, if student is thinking wrong, if the student is holding some misconceptions, that will be revealed, and that will help the student in real learning. Because what is the point if he is holding the misconception? Like let us suppose a student attended a lecture, he gone through some lectures, he read some books. Despite of that, if he is having some misconceptions, there should be a mechanism to test whether his understanding is correct or not. And that's why there is a concept of assessments. Now the problem with the MCQ assessment is that he can get the correct answer via guesswork, because MCQ is not testing his understanding, and hence CRQs, constructed response questions, they matter for real learning, because constructed response questions, it measures the thinking, whereas MCQs, it measure analytical and guessing skills. So this is the main difference, because in MCQ there is a scope for guess, but in CRQs there is no scope for any guesswork. It measures thinking in real terms. It shows the reasoning paths. Now, CRQs are not easy. There is a cost associated with the CRQ. And what are the costs? So, CRQs are linguistically diverse. So, here assessment becomes a challenge because we can have a very long answer. So the examiner has to go through it. Handwriting plays a role. Grammar plays a role. What if whatever you are writing that is grammatically incorrect or handwriting is not good? Then examiner will not be able to understand what you have written, and hence it is time consuming to grade. CRQs are open ended because these questions are open ended questions, they are subjective questions, and highly variable because it's all about expressions. Now different students will express in different ways, so the answer will be highly variable, and hence automation will be very challenging. Like a automated assessment framework for constructed response questions will be a challenge in a traditional setting. So here we can say that the best questions for learning are the hardest to scale, because the best questions for learning are the CRQs, and we saw that assessing CRQs or examining the solutions of constructed response questions is not easy, it is very hard to scale. So we can say that the best questions for learning are the hardest to scale, and it's an irony. Okay, now we will look into the next topic of this lecture, that is why scaling feedback is not equal to scaling exams. So first we look at the false assumption, and what is that false assumption is, if we can scale exams, we can scale feedback. So this is a false assumption that if we can scale exams, we can scale feedback. Now why it's a false assumption, let's try to understand. So what is the meaning of scaling exams? First let us try to understand that. So when I talk about scaling exams, it means faster scoring, it means uniform answers, and it means minimal interpretation. Because whenever we are scaling exams means, let us suppose if 100 students are participating in that exam, we want that millions of students participate in that exam. That is scaling exam. So whenever we are trying to scale exam, our goal is there should be a faster scoring system. Assessment should be automated, fully automated. It should be very fast. Answer should be uniform. It should be close ended. It should be objective. Then only we can have uniform answers. And there should not be any scope of interpretation, because interpretation is very time taking. So minimal interpretation, because with these things we can scale exams. Now what is meant by scaling feedback? So scaling feedback means understanding intent, interpreting language, handling ambiguity, being fair under uncertainty. So basically scaling feedback means not just giving marks but giving comments, giving feedbacks that okay, what mistakes student did, where he has done good, where he has made mistakes, what mistakes he did. That's the feedback. So scaling feedback means uh, like we want a mechanism through which we can do the feedback in an automated manner. So feedback needs certain things like understanding intent. We have to understand the intent, then only we will be able to give the feedback. There is a scope of interpretation, because in feedback we have to interpret the language, then only we'll be able to give the feedback. There is a scope of ambiguity is there, because the answer will be open ended, it can have ambiguities, so we have to handle ambiguity. And we have to be fair under uncertainty, because whenever any uncertain situation arise, especially ambiguity is there, we have to be fair. So scaling feedback is lot like very challenging, because it has the like it needs the things which are very time taking and which are like nearly impossible to automate in a general setting. Like with AI definitely we can automate, and that is what this course is about. But in a general setting, automating this feedback is not that easy. It's highly challenging task, and hence we can say that scaling exam is completely different than scaling feedback. So scaling feedback is not equal to scaling exams because both are completely different. So why automated grading failed historically? Now we will look at this. So earlier attempts to automation failed because they used rigid rules. So with rigid rules, we cannot automate, because if you talk about giving feedback or examining the constructed response questions, their rigid rules will not work. Earlier attempts, they relied on surface features. They required massive data sets, labeled data sets, massive labeled data sets. And also, they could not generalize across questions because they were very rigid. And because of these things, feedback became very difficult, like automated feedback. Feedback became shallow. Errors, there were errors in assessment, and these errors felt unfair, and because of that, trust eroded. And because of that, we are not using automated feedback systems, automated CRQ question examining systems. We are not using that because it's not that efficient. But the good thing is that with AI, we can achieve that. And that is what this course is about. We will learn how to build AI enabled grading systems for CRQ questions. Okay, now we'll look at the next topic of this lecture, that is reframing AI from replacement to infrastructure. So first let us look at like what AI should not do. So basically AI should not replace instructors. Like we cannot solely rely on AI. So AI should not replace instructors. Rather, AI should support instructors. AI should not make final high stakes decisions alone. AI should not judge creativity or intent blindly. And AI should not impose opaque scoring systems. So this is like a very important discussion we are making, because in this course we will be building AI powered grading system. So definitely whatever AI model we will be making, it will not replace instructor. It will not make high stake decisions alone. It will not judge creativity or intent blindly. It will not impose opaque scoring systems. Then what AI should do? So the AI should act as feedback infrastructure. So the idea is that in the existing system, AI should augment it. Yeah. Like AI should augment it in the form of feedback infrastructure. AI should act like a first pass evaluator. AI should act like a consistency engine. AI should act as a workload reducer, and AI should act as a learning amplifier. So whatever AI model we'll be making, it should have these qualities, like it should act as a feedback infrastructure, it should act as a first pass evaluator, it should act as a consistency engine, it should act as a workload reducer, it should act as a learning amplifier. So overall, basically, AI should not replace, not replacements, but extensions to human capability. Like AI should augment, and how it can augment? Spell checker, spell check for writing, calculators for maths, search engines for knowledge. Because with these small components, we can automate uh, construct response questions. Like the subjective questions we can automate. Like let us suppose a subjective question is there, wherein a theoretical answer is been provided by the student, Using spell check, very easily we can identify all the spelling mistakes. If some mathematical calculation is involved, AI can make use of the calculators to cross check whether all the calculations are correct or not. AI can make use of search engines to get the knowledge and compare it with what the student has written. So, to a great extent, we can automate and hence we can provide feedback with the power of AI. So, now we are getting a feel like of this course, because in this course which we will be developing an AI enabled grading system which will be able to provide feedback with a human level accuracy. So the ideal system is the human in the loop philosophy. So human in the loop philosophy, it is the ideal system wherein AI handle AI handles scale and consistency. Humans handle judgment and nuance. Models learn from prior grading and instructors retain authority. So this is the ideal system we are talking about, where see AI, as we saw in the previous slide, there are certain features in which AI is very good at, like checking for spelling mistakes, doing mathematical calculations, getting the knowledge base and comparing it, and many more such kind of feature. So AI should handle that. So AI should augment the existing grading system, and it should extend the capabilities which will help in scale and consistency. Because like I said, let us suppose we are making a grading system for a maths exam, then AI can very easily cross check all the mathematical calculations, so we can scale the grading system and provide feedbacks. So scale and consistency. So the idea is that AI should be only focusing on the things uh, in which it is good at, and humans are the one who should handle judgment and nuances. Like AI should act like a first pass evaluator. So answer I have, AI should evaluate that and it should come with some findings. Now there should be a human in the loop, and he should be the one who should pass the judgment, who should be giving the feedbacks based on whatever AI has uh, given the response. So humans should handle the judgment and nuance. And what benefit human got? Like time and effort, because of the first pass evaluator. Now human instructor, he will be needing to put less efforts, and more rapidly he will be able to give the feedbacks. And here the AI model, they learn from prior grading, and the authority is there with the instructor, because the final judgment is given by the instructor and not the AI. AI will be just the first pass evaluator, and hence scope of error will be very less. And this is the ideal system. And and in this course, like the AI powered grading system which we will be making, we will be following this philosophy, human in the loop philosophy, and we will be following this ideal system. Okay, students, so now we will be looking at the last topic of this lecture one, of why automated grading matters. And the topic is why this course exists. Now, like, what is the need for this course? Because this course is about building a AI powered grading system with a human level accuracy. Now, why we need that? Now, definitely with this lecture itself, you got an idea that how important feedback is. Feedback plays a very important role in learning, because the real learning comes from feedback and not from the marks. And we have seen that in a traditional setting, automating feedback is nearly impossible. But with AI, we can automate the feedback, we can scale and we can automate the feedback. And hence, this course becomes very important, because we are trying to solve a very important problem, that is automating the feedback. So this course is not about AI grading hype. Like in this course, we will not create any hype or will talk about any science fiction. Rather, whatever we will discuss, that will be concrete. That is what we will be implementing it. So this course is not about to create any hype. This course is not about generic LLM prompting tricks. Like in this course, it's not like we will be using any generic LLM like ChatGPT or Google Gemini and give it some prompt and it will do the evaluation for us, or it will do the feedback. It will give the feedback for a subjective answer. No, we will not use generic LLM. And this course is not about fully automated classrooms, because the focus of this course is just automating the grading system and not the entire classroom. So this course is about practical, responsible automation. This course is about using near domain data, which educators already have. So in this course, we will not be using any generic LLM. Rather, we will be using a completely different technique of near domain data. And using this, we will be able to build a AI-enabled grading system with human level accuracy. This course is about achieving human level accuracy. And this course is about reducing workload of the instructor without reducing the learning quality. Because whatever feedbacks uh, that AI system will give, it will be of human level accuracy and scope of error will be minimal. And hence, we will be able to reduce the workload of the instructors without reducing the learning quality, because high quality feedbacks we will be giving, our AI system will be giving, our AI models will be giving high quality feedbacks. So I can conclude this lecture with one very interesting thing. The future of education is not automated teaching, because student will still prefer a human instructor, a human professor. The future of education is about automated support, because there is a constraint when it comes to give feedbacks. So it is about automated support so that humans can only focus on teaching and they can teach better. So humans can teach better, because then if automated support is there, then humans will not be needing to put efforts and invest time in doing the assessment or examining the answers, giving feedbacks. That will be taken care by AI. And hence, this course is very important, because in this course, we are talking about AI powered grading system, which will automate the support. And that is the future of education. So, hence, in this course, we are like, we'll be discussing something very, very important, which can bring in a revolution in the edtech. So, friends, finally, we have completed the lecture one of this amazing course. I hope you liked it, you understood it, the concepts which we discussed. So do subscribe to this YouTube channel for more such interesting lectures. Scale Up University is the name of the channel. Share this lecture with your friends. Tell about this course to your friends so that they can also have a look at it and they can learn from it. If you have anything to discuss, do comment. So thanks for watching. Thanks for your time.